This is a tutorial how to quickly and easily fill out a California Residential Purchase Agreement CAR Form RPA revised 625. This is the June 2025 version, the current version in use, and this is part of a 28-page bundle. But don't fear, I will go through key terms so you can get through it quickly. Now we start at the very top. There is a disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. It's 2 pages. On page 1, you just put your buyer's name, your brokerage name, your name. You and the buyer both sign and you're done. There's nothing to do on page 2. And here we are already at the actual offer. Now we begin the offer by writing the date that we prepare this form. This is the date we're drafting it, the name of the buyer or buyers, the property address here, the assessor's parcel number, which is essentially a tax ID for real estate. And that can be found on the MLS, on Realist. You can ask the listing agent. You can look on the county assessor's website, or you can leave it blank and come back to it later. Now we come down here to the confirmation of agents involved. We put the listing brokerage here, listing agent here, buyer's brokerage here, buyer's agent name here. We check the box that who's representing whom. If it's a dual agent scenario, you check this box, dual agent. You put everyone's respective license number here, and you're done with the top half. Now we get down to the actual nitty-gritty, the terms of the offer. For purchase price, I put in a nice round, even $1 million. If it were an all-cash offer, I would check this box all cash, but it's not. We're going to pretend we have a financing buyer, and that financing buyer is going to do a 30-day escrow. So we check this box here and write in 30 days. Now, 30 days is probably the most typical escrow period that you'll see. And for cash buyers, it's usually shorter. For complicated financing buyers, it's longer. If you have a financing buyer and you have any doubt, contact the lender. The lender will give you guidance how much time you need for the escrow period. But I put 30 as it's the most typical. Now, you can also put a calendar date. If you want a definitive close of escrow, you can check this box and write in a calendar date. But we're just doing the 30 days. Now, expiration of offer, we're going to leave this alone. We're not doing anything here. By default, this expires 3 days after the buyer signs. You can shorten this time period and tighten it up if you want, but we're going to leave it alone. Initial deposit amount, also known as the EMD or the earnest money deposit, we're going to put, so I put $30,000 here because it's typically 1 to 3% of the sales price. And I was feeling generous. I wrote in $30,000 and it automatically calculates the percentage. You don't need to write that in here. It automatically calculates it. And then they have increased deposit. We're going to skip that. Why? Because it's not used on 99.9% of offers written. So we're just going to key terms to keep it simple so we can fill it out quickly. Loan amount. Now, again, we have a financing buyer who's putting 20% down and getting a loan for $800,000, which is 80%. So we write that in here. We write in the loan amount. It'll automatically calculate that purchase price. And we're done with page 1. Now, you might say, well, what about everything else? Well, I'll show you. If you have an FHA or VA buyer, check the appropriate boxes. If there's secondary financing, like a seller carryback or a second loan, fill this out. But most of the time, there's just one loan. And see this percent that you can put in for a loan, for your rate, your loan rate, or the amount of points you pay. You can put that in if you want. I mean, I'm a seasoned broker and I'm not, because it's not really relevant. So sometimes agents fill it in. You don't have to. I'm not, for the sake of example. I'm showing you how I would fill this up if I were writing an offer right now. This is automatically calculated right here, and it balances out to show the total purchase price that we wrote in at the very top. Okay, so it's balanced. Both parties sign. We're done with page 1. Now, page 2, some very important areas up here that with regard to commission and the seller payment, or seller credit to buyer, I should say. And basically they parsed out seller credits, because this first line is if the seller is going to credit the buyer for closing costs. If they are, check this box, write in the number, and it says for closing costs. Done. Seller credit to buyer for closing costs. Now, what about other seller credits? Okay, well, here's one. Additional seller credit terms. And they tell you this isn't about the commission part, okay? What's an example of that? Well, sometimes you might find a listing where let's say the carpet's terrible and the seller's offering a credit for flooring. Well, they'll write it in here. This is a credit not for closing costs, not for compensation, but just for other random stuff, for a flooring credit or to repair the broken blank. But whatever it is, it's a credit for other things. So you can write it in here if needed. Now, this is the important part. This is how a buyer's broker or buyer's agent gets paid. You must check this box on line G3. Check this box. I've seen these left blank. Don't do that. Check the box. Write in the amount. We're putting in 3% because, hey, why not? Right? They can always counter it out if they don't like it. And we're adding on $450 to cover my TC fee or a brokerage fee or whatever fee you want. I'm just showing you if you want to add in a little more, a flat fee to go on top of the percentage, put it here, okay? Most of the time I see people writing in 2.5% here. That's the most common way I see this done. But I'm showing you at least start out 3%. Now, you can also do a flat fee here if you want, but however you do this, make sure that you check this box and that you write in a number no greater than what's on your buyer representation agreement, which is required to be done at the time of, or I should say no later than at the time you write this offer. You should already have a BRBC or equivalent buyer representation agreement in place, and that number you put here cannot exceed what you have on the representation agreement. I will link to the tutorial for the representation agreement in the additional information box. All right, so this we're leaving alone. This is just verifications of the cash or the down payment. You should send a proof of funds with your offer. We're leaving this alone. Final verification, we're leaving all this alone. We're leaving all of this alone. Now, by default, there's a 17-day contingency period built in for the loan, the appraisal, and what I like to call just investigations in general. All of this below are investigations. Really, I like to think of there being three main contingencies: loan, appraisal, and investigations. And you got loan, appraisal, investigations. Now, if you want to modify it, do so here. We're going to leave all of this alone. If this were a cash offer, I would check these boxes here because you don't need an appraisal or a loan contingency if it's a cash offer. But since we're doing a financing offer, I'm leaving everything just how it is right here. Now, possession, I'm leaving this alone upon notice of recordation. I don't even know if that's actually a word. Upon notice of recording, the buyer can take possession. So I'm leaving this alone. You know, this offer is written where you can leave things in a default position and you're probably going to be fine. I mean, because so much of this is just the template or boilerplate text in here factors in what's typical and customary. All right. We're leaving all of this alone, all these time periods. If you need to shorten or lengthen time periods, write it in by all means, but we're leaving all of this alone. On this page, after the commission, we have done nothing. We've done nothing on page 2 of 17, and we've done it right. Both parties initial, and then we move on to the next page. Items included. Check as many boxes as possible. You know, as I read this, many of these things they're already included with the transfer of real property because they are installed, they are built in, they are affixed to the premises, which is a standard for whether or not something is real property. But for the sake of clarity and avoiding any sort of miscommunication, check as many boxes as applicable. This is a big one I've noticed more and more. The electric car charging systems, if there is one, just check the box. You know, to me, it's pretty wild that a seller would take that with them. But I mean, I've seen it all at this point. All right, so just make sure you have everything that you think may. If there's a shred of doubt, write it in, add it in, write it in an extra box here. Make sure everything conveys. Many times I get calls about someone leaving something out. Oh, the buyer was so excited there was a wine refrigerator built in under the island, and the seller's taking that. What do we do? And this isn't checked, and the listing agent's pointing that out. I mean, so just avoid those sort of mistakes. NHD required by law. Seller pays. Environmental added on because why not? And provided by Fast NHD, they should not have a checkbox here. There's so many little things I see in this offer that just make no sense. I mean, there shouldn't be one up by the commission either, but whatever. This should be checked, by the way. All right. Optional wildfire disclosure. See optional. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. And should we be concerned about wildfires in California? Yes, 100%. That's why we have the NHD. The NHD will tell us the fire hazard risk. Okay? All right. Down here, inspections, reports, things like that. You know, I went old school. I wrote in wood destroying organism report, what everyone else calls a termite report, because really it is a wood destroying organism, because these termite companies, they're looking for termites. They're also looking for different types of fungus or wood rot. And that would be defined as a wood destroying organism. That's what it used to be called. I actually write in termite report now because it's all the same, but I just for kicks. Just to have something to talk about, I put in wood destroying organism. So go ahead and write in termite report or write out the whole thing, whatever you want. Have the seller pay for it. You can write in another report if you need it. There's space for it. You don't need to write in anything else. You don't need to write in a property inspection paid for by the buyer. The buyer can do whatever they want during the inspection period. Smoke alarm, CO2 detector, water heater bracing. This should always be paid by the seller. We put seller here because the seller should always pay. Why is the buyer going to go into the seller's home before it's theirs and start doing work, start installing smoke alarms? Also, if the seller tries dodging this and something happens because they didn't, this is required by state law. Huge liability factor. So check the box seller and move on. This right here, we're not doing this. We're going to ignore this. This would get countered out most of the time anyway. Now, if you're in a city where you know there is a government required inspection, do this. Have the seller pay. If you know for sure in the city you're in, there's going to be a required inspection. If not, leave it blank. Escrow fee. You know, Southern California, you put each to pay their own. Northern California, it varies by county. It actually varies even in different parts within a single county in Northern California. If you're in Northern California, ask someone, another agent up there. I have a chart as well somewhere around here that shows who pays what in Northern California because it varies county by county. In Southern California, each pay their own, and we write in seller's choice in Southern California as well. Owner's title policy is, well, in Southern California, we have the seller pay. Northern California, it varies. It's negotiable. It's always negotiable. I'm just telling you what's customary. And you write in who the title company is here. If you have questions about anything I say, please leave a comment. I will be happy to answer. I'm trying to go through it without taking too much time. All right. County transfer tax, seller pays. City transfer tax, if applicable, not always there, but seller pays. And like if you live in an unincorporated county, there's no city transfer tax, obviously. This varies county by county in Northern California as well. HOA fees, HOA transfer fees specifically, seller pays. There are very often you'll see that there is no private transfer fee. So you could leave it blank. By default, it says seller, but it's going to be non-applicable. Are there other fees that weren't mentioned? They leave you these auxiliary boxes here, these handy boxes. Home warranty. So now it says chosen by buyer, which is good. I always used to advocate for that before this verbiage existed. Leave this blank. This is worthless. This is nonsense. It's ridiculous. Have the seller pay. Write in an amount. As a buyer's agent, you should have kind of a go-to place. There's a particular title company I like to go on their website and just work up a very quick quote just to see how much I need to ask for. Issued by, to be determined, or write in the name of the company if you already know it. Other terms, something else that hasn't been mentioned, write it in here. Both parties initial, we move on. And we've now gone through most of it. Just so you know, before I scroll through all this text, this matrix, this grid, this corresponds with these paragraphs here in this column. So, for example, line Q1, you'll see this paragraph here. And if you want more verbiage, you can go down to paragraph 10A and 11A down here in this sea of infinite text. And you can find the corresponding verbiage, 10A right there. And so if you have a question about the implications of any of these terms up here, because we've gone through the majority of this form now. We are almost done filling out the purchase agreement. But if you have questions, just look at the corresponding paragraph and then go down and read more about it. That's what this is. This is an explanation or more terms or more verbiage related to whatever was agreed to up in that matrix, that grid format at the top. We're scrolling through. Important but boring text. We're scrolling. Buyers and sellers are initialing each page. Scrolling through. Now on this page, we stop for a second, little road stop as we scroll through pages and pages of boring text, and we get to page 14 of 17. Both parties initial here. Liquidated damages. Both parties initial. And both parties should initial here. This is an arbitration clause that says if both parties can't come to some sort of resolution through mediation, they agree to go to arbitration rather than full-on litigation. These are just ways to mitigate the legal impact of a dispute resolution. And then finally, the regular bottom of the page initials. So there are 3 sets of initials on page 14 to 17. Then we move back on. Now, if the buyer's an entity, you have to fill this section out. You check this box. And by entity, I mean, well, it says right here, corporation, LLC, trust, that sort of thing. And you need to write the name of the entity, and then you need to put the name of the signer. This is actually, I should make a whole separate video on this, but I see these signatures and it'll say like ABC Corporation. It's written in cursive. You can't do that. It must be like Jane Doe is signing. She's the authorized signer on behalf of ABC Corporation. ABC Corporation up here, Jane Doe down here, and then Jane Doe's going to sign. It's going to say Jane Doe right there, and Jane Doe's going to sign her name. She's not signing ABC Corporation. If you have questions about this, leave a comment, please. Buyer signs. We are almost done. Seller's going to sign if they accept. Actually, if the seller counters, seller's going to sign, but they're going to check this box that they're doing a counter. You, as the agent, you are going to sign here. And we are basically done. Now, this brings us to page 20 of 28. That means there are 8 more pages of just disclaimers, advisories, all sorts of text put in as good measure because everything is so litigious now. All right, so we put in both parties are, I mean, this is at this point, you put in your information if you need to. Buyer signs, you move on. Advisory, buyer signs, you move on. Homeowners insurance. I mean, homeowners insurance has been an issue, so they now have a form. Buyer signs, acknowledging. Wire fraud, huge issue. Buyer signs, acknowledging. California sharing your private data. I mean, soon this thing will be 100 pages long. But I'm just showing you these are all advisories for good measure, letting people know. All right, that's it. That is the new offer. If you have questions, please leave a comment. I will be happy to answer. I do hope you found this helpful. Thank you for watching.